And the next story I want to talk about today somehow there's something wrong with the clocks in the studio because we're almost on time warp here. I want to hit three more stories very quickly. One was a great congressman from the state of Texas, John Ratcliffe, he's a first term member of Congress. And we played clips from him last week during the hearing where Mueller was testifying before Congress, and Ratcliffe, did a great job zeroing in on one kind of big overarching point of the Mueller investigation, which was essentially, why is it that you did not do what every prosecutor knows his job is, which is either you look at the evidence, you indict, or you seek an indictment, or you decline a declination. You decline to indict. What Ratcliffe was pointing out to Mueller is you deliberately put President Trump in a no man's land because you wouldn't just say, I've looked at the evidence, I decline to prosecute. This is as to obstruction. So Ratcliffe his words may go down in history. They were so stellar and really good, and pointing out, essentially his point is, you ended up putting President Trump in the position of flipping the burden of proof or flipping the presumption of innocence, forcing President Trump to prove his innocence when your job was to say, either we indict or we don't. But instead you say, well, it could be, I don't know, maybe we can look this up. These things might be, left him in limbo. And Ratcliffe pointed out that just violates basic jurisprudence standards of America since our founding. But Ratcliffe has now been nominated to become the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, and he's replacing Dan Coats. And I would just say quick things about Dan Coats. Everything's relative. He was on the right side of the aisle. He's one of the last people remaining in high positions in which President Trump, being new in Washington, not having a deep cadre of allies and long-term colleagues, that President Trump had to choose people to put them in important positions who turned out to be not really exactly with the Drain the Swamp program. He wasn't anti the Drain the Swamp, but Dan Coats is just not one of those kind of fighter guys, kind of similar to Jeff Sessions. President Trump put him in place as Attorney General, and he just didn't have the fight in him that he had to have given what radical changes President Trump is bringing to America. When I say radical changes, he's getting America back on track, back on making America America. So John Ratcliffe nominated to be DNI, Director of National Intelligence. And actually, it's good. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch because this does require confirmation from the Senate. And, we have endless battles for Senate confirmations, of course. But it'd be very interesting to see how hard the left pushes against him. Because one of the great things that Ratcliffe said was essentially that he trusts Attorney General Barr to get to the root, get to the beginning, the predicate of the whole question of how this whole Russia-Trump collusion hoax got started. This was the great thing that Ratcliffe said, and I think, I don't know President Trump, but I'm going to guess it would have helped him tip his hand toward, we got to get this guy into the into a powerful position, because Ratcliffe is cheering on the effort by Attorney General Barr to get to the bottom of it. And Ratcliffe's statement included the very vital words, including people even in the previous administration may have to be prosecuted. He was willing, I don't have the exact words in front of it. Ratcliffe basically said to the world, you know what, when you get to the bottom of this, previous administration members may have to be prosecuted, and he's right. So putting Ratcliffe in is not just putting someone in who's not a, kind of a squirmy establishment old Republican. He's a strong Republican, but he's also someone who's recognizing that the depth of the problem created by the Mueller, collusion hoax, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, how serious it was, how dangerous it was for America, how extremely important it is for America to get to the very bottom of who in the Department of Justice started this, who authorized all this spying on Papadopoulos, and who authorized the whole setup with Mifsud and all the people we've talked about so many times. Who started it? Who authorized it? Who knew it? Who covered it up? All those people have committed crimes. And from previous statements from Ratcliffe, he's sounding like, yeah, he's on board with the idea we're going to get to the bottom of this. And I'll tell you, there was one other, I have sent one clip to the extremely wonderful Matt, which was Congressman Nunes, Devin Nunes, who also spoke about the idea of how important it is to get to the bottom of the Trump-Russia collusion, what happened. So here you go, Devin Nunes.
All of us want to see justice equal under the law, right? So we want to see everyone held accountable. I believe that if the new Attorney General and the Department of Justice, if they don't take all of this on and do a full scrub and have full accountability and transparency for the American people, you are going to see generations of conservatives who will not trust the Department of Justice, they will not trust the FBI, and they for sure will not trust the FISA process.
Okay, I just love that guy. That's Devin Nunes. And he is basically saying, and it was a really poignant quote, poignant point he was making, you will have generations of conservatives who cannot trust the Department of Justice and the FBI and the CIA and the NSA until we get to the bottom of what happened. And he is right, and I think that this putting Ratcliffe in the position of Director of National Intelligence, it's a signal from Trump. We're not dropping this, folks. We're going to get to the bottom of it. So that is a great congressman from Texas now taking an important position, we hope, as long as we get Senate confirmation, in the Trump administration.